certain songs that come to mind when a specific time of year arrives. Today, let's delve into the story of Green Day. First, please subscribe, like, and press the notification bell. Green Day has been a model band, having never undergone any member changes since they started the band with their school friends. While punk rock was their main inspiration, it wasn't the only thing they were influenced by. Billie Joe in particular loved The Who, and once said that he thought music should be played as if it were reinterpreting Beethoven's works. Both Billie and Mike had their share of personal struggles. While neither came from severely unhappy families, they both had their wounds and shared a sense of insecurity about the future. Billie Joe lost his father to cancer when he was just 10 years old, and he cried endlessly in his room. This happened in September of 1982, and there's a story that when his mother knocked on the door, he asked to be woken up at the end of September. Mike, on the other hand, grew up with foster parents and moved around a lot after their divorce, even staying at Billie's house for a while. Punk music was the perfect outlet for both of them to express their pain. After several lineup changes, Green Day eventually solidified its lineup with Tré Cool, and after releasing 2 albums, they achieved immense success. The band has sold over 20 million copies in the U.S. alone, and Green Day, with the combination of punk energy and catchy melodies, helped usher in the era of pop-punk. Basket Case is a song about Billie's struggles with panic and anxiety, while Welcome to Paradise tells the story of the poor neighborhood in Auckland, where the band members lived during their early days. Although some critics argued that the punk spirit of rebellion was missing, and that only a sense of defeat remained, the album, with its reflection of the times, quickly propelled Green Day to rock star status. However, the circumstances for the 3 members soon changed drastically. They achieved financial stability and built families of their own, meaning they could no longer maintain the defeatist attitude from their unknown days. Green Day released albums with more acoustic elements, such as Warning, but their commercial success began to decline. In fact, following Warning, Green Day's first greatest hits album was released. Now, a greatest hits album is usually a sign that an artist's peak period is over. If you look at the artists from the 90s, record labels tended to release greatest hits albums when they thought those artists' best days were behind them, an attempt to capitalize on their past success. During this time, there was some tension among the Green Day members, and it seemed like the band's future wasn't bright. There was even a moment when they almost broke up. In the face of this crisis, the band chose to talk things through. Eventually, they decided to continue as a band, but even after 15 years of activity, they still felt unsure about their future. At this point, Green Day tried to return to the punk sound they had initially embraced. Their producer, Rob, suggested something radical. "Why don't you guys make the best album ever? Something you've never done before. Something big that'll blow everyone away." Billie Joe had once confessed to the band, "Someday, I want to write a song like Bohemian Rhapsody, a song made up of several parts coming together as one piece, and even better, an entire album of such songs, a rock opera like Tommy by The Who." Green Day began working on a new album, and it eventually became a rock opera concept. When rumors spread that Green Day were working on a rock opera, some people laughed at the idea. Billie Joe said, "Some people thought we were crazy. We made up our minds that we were either going to become the world's greatest band, or we'd completely crash and burn." Green Day's next album ended up being a full-on rock opera, with every song connecting into one cohesive story. Along with their trademark social messages, the album was called American Idiot. The resurrection and the perfection of Green Day, American Idiot and Holiday were songs that directly criticized the Bush administration at the time. After 9/11, U.S. had invaded Iraq, and internally, there was a sharp divide between pro-war and anti-war sentiments. Billie Joe said the situation felt like the Vietnam War for their generation. These songs were their furious response to the situation. American Idiot was a typical song about macho American themes like fast cars, women, and beer, with a line about now. The Stars and Stripes Are Proud, which was obviously sarcastic. Meanwhile, Holiday was about the fear of watching tanks roll down the streets on cable news. Billie Joe would always clarify before performing Holiday live, "This isn't against America, it's against war." He also once said, "For us, our education didn't come from school. It came from Kennedy and classic albums." In fact, American Idiot was released just a month and a half before the U.S. presidential election. But what was equally significant was the concept of the rock opera. American Idiot and Holiday were the first and third tracks on the album, and the song that tied them together was the second track, Jesus of Suburbia, a 9-minute epic Green Day's very own Bohemian Rhapsody. Green Day themselves have said that this song is one of their greatest achievements and one of their favorite tracks. As their producer had suggested, they were doing something they had never done before, and Billie Joe described it as a moment when they wanted to take a huge risk. The concept of a rock opera was actually a lucky accident. Mike had written a 30-second song in the studio, which Billie Joe then added to, and Trey also contributed a 30-second piece. A week later, they had a 10-minute song. They sent the finished track to their producer, Rob, and his response was one of excitement. Rob recalled, "It was the best song I'd ever heard, and this opera broke the limits of punk rock." Encouraged by this, the band went on to create a full rock opera album, and Jesus of Suburbia became the foundation for the project. All the songs on the album blended into one continuous story, but there was one song that didn't quite fit into the album's overall structure, "Wake Me Up When September Ends." This was Billie Joe's tribute to his late father, 22 years after his passing. Billie Joe explained, "For a long time, I was hesitant to write a song about my father, but at some point I found a breakthrough." He added that it wasn't a sad song, but rather a celebration of his father's life. American Idiot went on to sell over 20 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best albums of the 2000s. Although President Bush was re-elected, going against Green Day's views, the band proved that they were still true punks at heart. The rock opera concept was something they had actually been considering since 1997, but it wasn't until later that it fully came to fruition. This concept was brought to life because of the band's determination to make something they had never done before, the courage to either become the best in the world or risk falling into obscurity. Released in September 2004, American Idiot is a testament to Green Day's resilience and growth as a band. Thank you. Live a happy life today as well.